back in the early 70s, actually 1970, who was scouting for Valley Curtain, the project in Colorado, and often we're crossing the continental divide, who is at the top of the Rocky Mountains. The United States Department of Interior built aluminum fence to keep the snow separated. And that is probably the first image of fence running. Even there are fences all around the world running in all directions, but I see up on the top of the Rocky Mountains. Now, I should say, my name is Christo, but I can tell one important part, that the project is really the most missing part project, that Jean-Claude is not here today, that she will tell you so much more story with the ranchers, with the politicians, with the public hearings, with the fabrication, with the workers, installation, all that there. You know, the project, it was something unforgettable because myself and Jean-Claude, we learn so much of things we do not know. And each project for us is like a university. We are so eager. No, we all was working together. There was no one moment separate. But ideas, it was coming sometime from me, sometime from her. You know, it's very much like architects. You know, you should understand that our work, a lot of have similarity of architecture and urban planning. You don't need to only compile thinkings and proportion and put together pieces. And that was also the story of running fence. Both of us were familiar with California landscape, and it was important to build that fence between the ocean and the very busy road. But we fight, you know, we are absolutely the most argumentative people. That we are really arguing very ferociously. Somebody thinks that we will never talk each other together, end of our life. But she was very, very argumentative. I also was very, very stubborn. And this is probably the best thing, because we are continuously criticizing each other. You know, but that is very exciting, you know. All our projects, they're temporary works of art. They stay for a short time. After 2 weeks, all the materials is removed and industrially recycled for their users. They're very good materials, steel, pole, cables, all other material. And when the project is removed, for all the project, now I'm talking generally for all project, we take components of the project, like pole, cables, fabric, all these materials. We collect all the original drawings of the engineers, their paper, their all kind of diagrams, and each of our projects have her own documentation exhibition. Now, this exhibition tracing the project from the genesis to the realization. And I should add it also to people to understand that they can see the evolution of the project, or how project is crystallized visually through reading the drawings, because the very last drawing, which was done in 1976, they're much closer to the real things, because we almost put the pulse in the landscape. When the first drawings, they're much more schematic, more clumsy, more abstract, more simple, because we don't know where the running fencing, how we look in the landscape. Now, this is in the story of the original works of art I did with my own hand. I use pencil, charcoal, pastel, wax crayon. I glue often under drawings the technical data diagrams. Often I use photography by Wolfgang Walls. The little sketches on exhibition, they study for the larger drawings. I did the first drawings, and it's called Divide. And we find right away that the word is not good, divide, because it's not division, basically it's running. And I make 2 or 3 drawings. And right away I understand that, Jean-Claude and myself, we understand this very menacing title, not inviting title. And this is why soon after that drawings were probably in early 73 or late 72, early became the running fence. in the summer of 1973, Jean-Claude was driving me with our friend photographer Harry Shanks, and we were scouting area, and we need to find at least 2 or 3 possible sites that at least we will be sure what site we have permission to do the project. Number 1, the most preferable site was Sonoma Marin County, just north of San Francisco. This is how by late 1973 we decided that will be the site for Running Fence project. Now, we were eager to do that in California, and I was very fascinated of the way how the people live in California between the water, Pacific Ocean, with the continuous coastal culture with that very hospitable coastal line, and moving inland when the people start to build their houses, their ranchers have their property, they have their own fences, they have barns, going to subdivision. We have a subdivision called Happy Acres, very funny subdivision, crossing one of the main preoccupation of Californians, the highways, and disappearing after the highways. And this is the entire project was running with that rural land, subdivision, a small town of Petaluma. The scale of the project was really the average height of these barns and garages, or the scale was something very related to the man-made structure in the landscape. Because only by having human activity we can have a scale of the work of art. The project was scheduled to be done in '75. Only we discovered that only once we get all the ranches, we discovered that big problems start with the governmental permission. We were believing that the ranches would be the problem in the beginning, but there was no problem with the ranches. And the way was hard. We need to convince some ranchers. We need to argue, but we were stopped with the governmental permits, and of course the committee to stop the running fence was taken to court, and we go to the appellate court in San Francisco when finally we get the permission. The exhibition on the way to show the rencontre of the ranchers and the way the public hearings is related, because I should say that with not ranchers' support, we will never get the permission of the running fence. Each of our projects, their unique image. We will never build another running fence. We will never surround another islands. It's certainly all our projects, they're like living objects. Much of the public see the project in still photographs, and through the still photography you can have some idea. But if you see the film, you can see much more of the energy the fabric is translating of incredible force and very invigorating visible forms. And the fabric, because we have extra fabric, when with the wind, the fabric was like the wind was traveling to the panels. We have a grommet, and the grommets have a steel rings, and the steel rings of the grommets was, when the wind's blowing, was touching the poles, and it was making the sound like a Buddhist monk walking in the forest, and you have the sound in the fog. We really have this continuous play of the wind, and some way the fabric was showing the wind. The wind, you cannot see it. Only by this energy of the fabric you see the physical, what the wind is doing.